January 24, 1961. The world holds its breath, caught in the icy grip of the Cold War. In the skies over North Carolina, a B-52 Stratofortress bomber, call sign Keep 19, is on a routine airborne alert mission. On board are 8 crew members and a payload of unimaginable destructive power to mark 39 thermonuclear bombs. Each bomb is more than 250 times more powerful than the one that leveled Hiroshima. These were the doomsday weapons, the ultimate deterrent, meant to keep the peace through the promise of mutual annihilation. But on this cold winter night, a series of catastrophic failures would bring the United States to the very brink of a self-inflicted nuclear holocaust. This is the story of a night when a simple mechanical failure nearly unleashed hell on Earth, a story of heroism, sheer luck, and a secret that the government would keep buried for decades. How close did America come to nuking itself? The answer is far more terrifying than you can imagine. The mission of Operation Chrome Dome was simple, yet profoundly dangerous. A fleet of B-52 bombers was kept in the air 24/7, ready to retaliate against the Soviet Union at a moment's notice. For the crew of Keep 19, this was just another long, tense flight pattern along the East Coast. The attention jet was essentially a flying gas tank, requiring mid-air refueling to stay aloft. It was during one of these refueling hookups with a KC-135 tanker that the first sign of trouble appeared. The tanker's boom operator noticed a stream of fuel gushing from the B-52's right wing. A serious fuel leak. The commander of the B-52, Major Walter Scott Tulloch, immediately knew the gravity of the situation. He broke off from the tanker and began procedures to burn off excess fuel for a safe emergency landing at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro, North Carolina. But the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The leak was far worse than they thought. The plane was losing thousands of pounds of fuel per minute. The right wing grew heavy, the controls became sluggish, and the bomber began to enter an uncontrollable spiral. At 9,000 feet, Major Tulloch gave the order that no commander ever wants to give: bail out. Bail out. As the crew members ejected one by one into the freezing night sky, the massive B-52 began to break apart. The violent G-forces of the uncontrolled spin tore the aircraft to pieces. And as the plane disintegrated, its deadly cargo was released. The 2 multi-megaton hydrogen bombs tumbled out of the fragmenting bomb bay and began their separate, terrifying descents toward the quiet, unsuspecting farmland of North Carolina. This was the moment the fail-safes were supposed to work perfectly. The moment a complex series of arming sequences was designed to prevent an accidental detonation. But in the chaos of the breakup, those systems began to fail, one by one. Let's look inside one of these Mark 39 bombs. To detonate, a specific sequence of events must occur. Think of it like a series of switches that all need to be flipped in the right order. First, as the bomb falls, a barometric switch detects the change in altitude. Then, a timer activates. Finally, a parachute deploys, slowing the bomb's descent and allowing the arming sequence to complete before impact. The final trigger is the impact itself, which crushes a crystal firing mechanism. It's a system designed to be robust, to only work when it's supposed to. But on this night, the system was being put to the ultimate and planned test. The first bomb, which we'll call Bomb 1, plummeted towards the Earth. Its parachute failed to deploy. It slammed into a muddy tobacco field near the town of Faro at over 700 miles per hour. The impact was so violent that the bomb disintegrated, burying itself deep in the swampy ground. Its components, including the highly enriched uranium and plutonium core, scattered across a wide area. A massive recovery operation began immediately. Hundreds of military personnel descended on the site, digging through the mud and contaminated water. They had to find every last piece of the pit, the fissile core of the weapon. After days of frantic, dangerous work, they recovered most of the bomb. But the secondary stage, a key component for the thermonuclear reaction, was never found. To this day, it remains buried somewhere deep beneath that North Carolina field, a permanent, radioactive monument to the near disaster. But it was the fate of the second bomb, Bomb 2, that truly revealed how close the world had come to catastrophe. This bomb behaved almost exactly as it would have in a real combat drop. As it fell, its parachute deployed perfectly. It floated gently down, its arming sequence progressing just as designed. The barometric switches flipped. The timers engaged. The systems meant to prevent an accidental detonation were now actively preparing the bomb to explode. When rescuers found the bomb, its parachute was tangled in the branches of a tree, the bomb itself resting upright in the soft ground, almost as if it had been gently placed there. It looked intact. But the truth was chilling. When investigators examined the bomb, they found that of the multiple arming mechanisms, nearly all of them had activated. The bomb had gone through almost every single step required for it to detonate. Out of 4 key safety switches, 3 had failed, leaving the weapon in an armed state. What saved Goldsboro, and potentially the entire eastern seaboard, from being vaporized? A single, simple, low-voltage switch. A switch that was later described by Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara as being of the type one might find in a common household appliance. That one tiny, fragile component was the only thing standing between safety and a 4-megaton nuclear explosion. An explosion that would have created a fireball for miles wide, ignited fires for hundreds of square miles, and sent a lethal cloud of radioactive fallout drifting over Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City, potentially killing millions. The pilot who discovered the bomb, Lieutenant Jack Revell, later recounted the moment he understood the truth. He said an engineer told him, "Fellas, there was a single switch that prevented that bomb from detonating." For years, the U.S. government downplayed the incident, insisting that there was never any real danger of an explosion. But declassified documents released decades later told a different story. One secret report from 1969, written by Parker F. Jones, a supervisor of nuclear safety at Sandia National Laboratories, stated bluntly that one simple, dynamo technology, low-voltage switch stood between the United States and a major catastrophe. He concluded that the Mark 39 bomb did not possess adequate safety for the airborne alert role. The nation had been saved not by brilliant design, but by sheer, dumb luck. The Goldsboro incident was a terrifying wake-up call. It exposed critical flaws in the safety mechanisms of America's nuclear arsenal. In the aftermath, engineers scrambled to redesign the arming systems, adding more robust and redundant safeties to prevent a similar near-miss from ever happening again. The incident also highlighted the immense risks of the Cold War's airborne alert strategy. Keeping nuclear-armed bombers in the air around the clock was a recipe for accidents. And Goldsboro wasn't the only one. Similar incidents, known as broken arrows, occurred in Spain, Greenland, and other locations, each one a roll of the dice with the fate of the planet. Today, the crash site near Faro is just a quiet field. There's a small historical marker nearby that hints at the momentous event that took place. But underneath the soil lies a buried secret, and in the archives rests the story of Bomb 2 and its single, solitary safety switch. It is a stark reminder that the greatest threats we face can sometimes come not from an enemy, but from our own technology, from a simple failure in a complex system. The story of Goldsboro is a sobering lesson from the Cold War. A warning that echoes through time about the terrifying fragility of our world and the razor-thin margin between survival and self-destruction. The 8 crewmen of Keep 19 faced an unimaginable crisis. 5 managed to eject safely, but 3 did not survive. Their sacrifice, and the harrowing experience of the survivors, serves as the human element in this story of technological failure. It reminds us that behind the machinery of war, there are always people, making life or death decisions in a split second. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as chilling and important as I do, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten history. Stay curious.